Your greatest struggle is not what happens around you, but the uncontrolled judgments you allow to govern your life. Today we examine 10 Stoic principles that will challenge your habits and train your mind to live with reason, virtue, and self-command. Many people suffer because they react before thinking and chase what they cannot control. This journey will help you separate your responsibility from external events and return to disciplined choices each day. Stay with us and join this community of people committed to examining themselves honestly and practicing wisdom together. Do not seek comfort from these lessons, but seek clarity, strength, and a mind guided by reason. The principles ahead will ask you to confront your weaknesses without excuses, remove false judgments, and practice the inner discipline required for a life shaped by virtue rather than impulse, because every choice you make today determines the person you become tomorrow. Number 1. Accept only what reason places within your control. How much of your life have you surrendered to things that were never yours to command? You wake worried about other people's opinions. You carry anger because someone spoke carelessly. You lose peace because events refuse to follow your plans. Then you wonder why your mind feels exhausted. The first step in destroying your old self is not changing the world. It is refusing to hand your inner life over to it. Reason asks one question before every thought and every action. Is this truly within my control? If the answer is no, then it does not deserve authority over your character. The disciplined mind understands that your judgments, your choices, your words, and your actions belong to you. The weather does not. The economy does not. Another person's respect does not. The past does not. The future does not. The moment you demand control over what was never yours, you begin a fight that cannot be won. Every unnecessary fear, every useless resentment, and every restless night grows from this single mistake. Freedom begins the moment you stop arguing with reality and start governing yourself instead. A Stoic teacher would tell you to stop saying that life is against you. Life has made no promise to obey your wishes. Your task is not to command events, but to command your response. If someone insults you, they have chosen their action. Whether that insult becomes anger inside you is your choice. If a plan fails, the failure belongs to the event. Whether you lose courage belongs to your judgment. No person can force your character to become weaker without your agreement. There is an old example from ancient Rome that reveals this truth with complete clarity. A slave named Epictetus belonged to another man. His master controlled where he lived, what work he performed, and even how he was treated. Those things were outside his control, yet he refused to believe that his mind belonged to anyone else. He trained himself every day to govern his judgments instead of his circumstances. While others with wealth and freedom lived as prisoners of fear and anger, he remained inwardly free because he accepted only responsibility for what reason placed within his control. His chains restrained his body but never his character. That is why he became stronger than many who called themselves powerful. Ask yourself where you still live as a slave. Is it inside the need for approval? Is it inside endless worry about tomorrow? Is it inside resentment toward someone who cannot undo the past? Every time you allow these things to govern your peace, you hand over the only kingdom that truly belongs to you. No enemy can take your judgment unless you surrender it first. Begin practicing this today with complete honesty. Before reacting to any difficulty, pause for a single moment and ask yourself, what belongs to me right now? If another driver behaves carelessly, your responsibility is patience and wise action. If a co-worker speaks unfairly, your responsibility is honest speech without bitterness. If your plans collapse, your responsibility is to begin again without complaint. Keep returning your attention to your own choices because that is where your strength lives. At the end of the day, examine yourself without excuses. Do not ask whether people treated you fairly. Ask whether you governed yourself well. Do not ask whether fortune favored you. Ask whether you remained faithful to reason when fortune changed. This daily examination removes self-deception and replaces it with genuine progress. You are not measured by what happened around you, but by the quality of the choices you made within it. Your old self will resist this discipline because it has spent years blaming circumstances for its condition. It will search for excuses. It will demand guarantees before taking action. It will insist that peace can only come after the world changes. Do not believe it. The rational mind knows that peace begins the moment you stop chasing control over what never belonged to you. Do not wait for better conditions before you begin living wisely. This day is already enough. Every moment offers another chance to choose reason instead of impulse, and responsibility instead of complaint. Accept only what reason places within your control, and guard it with unwavering discipline. When you do this, you will discover that the strongest part of your life was never outside you. It has been waiting within your own judgment all along. Number 2. Examine every judgment before allowing emotion to govern you. You believe your emotions appear without warning, but they do not arrive alone. They are invited by the judgment you make before you even notice it. A harsh word becomes an insult only after you decide it has wounded your worth. A delay becomes a disaster only after you declare that life has treated you unfairly. The undisciplined mind accepts its first judgment as truth. The disciplined mind pauses and asks whether that judgment deserves belief. If you fail to examine your judgments, your emotions will rule your life before reason has spoken a single word. Every day presents countless moments where your character is tested, not by events themselves, but by the meaning you assign to them. Someone receives the promotion you wanted. Your first thought may be that you have failed, yet that thought is not a fact. It is only a judgment. Someone ignores your message. Your first thought may be that you have been rejected. That is not certain either. The mind rushes to conclusions because it seeks comfort in quick answers, but reason refuses to accept appearances without examination. A life governed by impulse becomes unstable because it changes with every passing opinion. A life governed by reason remains steady because it tests every judgment before accepting it. A Stoic teacher would say that your first impression is not your enemy. Your agreement with it is where your responsibility begins. Thoughts will appear without your permission. Fear may knock at the door of your mind. Anger may ask to enter. Envy may present itself as justice. None of these have authority unless you welcome them. You are not required to obey every thought that appears within you. Your task is to examine it carefully. Ask whether it agrees with reason. Ask whether it serves virtue. Ask whether accepting it will strengthen or weaken your character. Only then should you allow it to influence your actions. There is an example from ancient Greece that reveals this discipline with remarkable clarity. A merchant returned to the marketplace after a violent storm had destroyed much of his cargo. Around him, other merchants shouted in despair. Some cursed fortune. Others accused the gods. Many abandoned hope before making another attempt to rebuild. One philosopher quietly watched the same destruction and said that the storm had damaged possessions, but had not damaged judgment. He reminded the merchant that grief over lost goods would not restore them, while a clear mind could still choose honesty, courage, and careful work. The merchant accepted this counsel. Instead of wasting strength on complaint, he examined his thoughts, rejected despair, and began trading again with wisdom and patience. His recovery began not with better fortune, but with better judgment. Look honestly at your own life. How often has a single assumption stolen an entire day from you? You believe someone dislikes you without evidence. You assume failure before making the effort. You imagine tomorrow will bring disappointment before it has even arrived. These judgments create emotions that seem unavoidable, yet they were built upon thoughts that were never examined. The suffering that follows is often the product of your own conclusions rather than the events before you. Begin a new discipline each morning. Before leaving your home, remind yourself that you will meet praise and criticism, success and delay, kindness and selfishness. Promise yourself that none of these will decide your character. Tell yourself that every impression must first stand before the court of reason. This preparation does not make life easier. It makes your mind stronger because you enter the day expecting to govern yourself instead of expecting the world to satisfy you. Throughout the day, practice a simple pause whenever strong emotion begins to rise. Do not silence the feeling by force. Instead, question the judgment beneath it. If anger appears, ask what belief has produced it. If fear grows, ask whether reason supports it or whether imagination has taken control. If disappointment settles in, ask whether you expected something that was never guaranteed. This quiet examination creates space between the event and your response. In that space, reason has the opportunity to lead. When evening arrives, examine yourself with complete honesty. Recall the moments when emotion moved faster than wisdom. Do not condemn yourself for them. Learn from them. Identify the judgment that guided your reaction and decide whether it deserved your trust. Then imagine how reason could have answered differently. This daily practice gradually trains the mind to recognize false judgments before they become destructive habits. Your old self accepted appearances without question and called that living. Your new life begins when every judgment must earn your agreement through reason. No emotion should become your master simply because it arrived first. Your greatest freedom is not found in controlling every feeling, but in choosing which judgments deserve to shape your character. Guard that freedom with unwavering discipline, and each day your mind will become calmer, your choices wiser, and your life more firmly rooted in virtue than in passing emotion. Number 3. Discipline your desires until virtue becomes your only aim. Every desire you refuse to examine quietly becomes your master. You believe you are pursuing happiness, yet much of your energy is spent chasing things that cannot promise a stable life. You want praise from people whose opinions change with the day. You seek comfort that disappears the moment hardship arrives. You reach for possessions that demand more attention once they are gained. Then you wonder why your mind never rests. The problem is not that you desire. The problem is that your desires have never been trained to follow reason. A life without disciplined desire becomes a life directed by appetite instead of character. Your mind was not given to you so that every impulse could become an order. It was given so that every desire could stand before reason and be judged. Ask yourself what you truly seek whenever a strong longing appears. Do you want wealth because it allows you to act with greater justice and generosity, or because you fear appearing ordinary? Do you want success because it strengthens your ability to serve others well, or because your worth depends upon recognition? Many desires wear the appearance of wisdom while quietly feeding pride, fear, or vanity. Unless you examine them honestly, they will shape your life without your consent. The disciplined person does not destroy desire. The disciplined person teaches desire where it belongs. Desire should reach first for a good character, because that can never be taken by fortune. Everything else must remain secondary. Health is welcome, but it cannot make you honorable. Wealth is useful, but it cannot make you wise. Reputation may open doors, but it cannot make you just. When virtue becomes the highest aim, every other possession finds its proper place. You appreciate what comes without becoming dependent upon it. A Stoic teacher would tell you to desire only what strengthens your character. If an ambition demands dishonesty, leave it behind. If comfort weakens your discipline, accept less comfort. If admiration encourages pride, learn to work without seeking applause. The value of any desire is measured by whether it leads you toward wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. Anything that pulls you away from these qualities asks too high a price, no matter how attractive it appears. Ancient Rome offers a clear example of this discipline. A respected senator was offered a position that promised greater wealth and influence, but gaining it required supporting an unjust decision that would harm innocent citizens. Many around him urged him to accept because the reward seemed too great to refuse. Instead, he chose integrity over advancement. He understood that losing office was far less damaging than losing an honorable character. Others gained power for a season. He kept the one possession that fortune could never steal, a soul governed by virtue rather than desire. His decision did not make life easier, but it made his character stronger, and that was the victory he valued most. Look carefully at your own ambitions. Some of them deserve your effort. Others deserve your refusal. The hardest desires to discipline are often the ones that promise immediate satisfaction. You tell yourself that one dishonest word will solve the problem. One act of revenge will bring relief. One moment of comfort will not matter. Yet every small surrender teaches the mind to obey appetite instead of reason. Character is not destroyed by one great failure alone. It is weakened through countless unexamined desires accepted without resistance. Begin each morning by choosing one desire you will place under discipline. It may be the desire to impress others. It may be the desire to avoid difficult work. It may be the desire for unnecessary comfort. Name it clearly before the day begins. Then decide that reason will govern it instead of habit. Throughout the day, notice each moment when that desire calls for your obedience. Do not argue with it. Simply return your attention to the kind of person you have chosen to become. Every refusal strengthens your freedom. There is another practice that sharpens this discipline. Before pursuing anything you strongly want, ask whether losing it would destroy your peace. If the answer is yes, your desire has already become excessive. Anything outside your character can be lost through chance, time, or circumstance. Therefore, do not allow your inner stability to depend upon it. Train yourself to value what cannot be removed by another person's choice or by changing fortune. A disciplined character remains secure because its highest aim lives within its own power. When evening arrives, review the desires that guided your actions. Which ones brought you closer to wisdom? Which ones pulled you towards selfishness or impatience? Do not excuse them, and do not condemn yourself. Learn from them with complete honesty. Each day offers another opportunity to bring desire into harmony with reason. Your old self measured success by obtaining what it wanted. Your new life begins when success is measured by remaining faithful to virtue regardless of the outcome. When your deepest desire becomes an excellent character, disappointment loses much of its power, temptation loses much of its attraction, and your mind gains a steadiness that no possession can provide. This is how desire becomes disciplined, and this is how a life is rebuilt from its very foundation. Number 4. Reject every excuse and strengthen your character through action. How long will you continue explaining the life you have not lived? The mind that depends on excuses always finds another reason to delay what reason already knows must be done. You tell yourself the time is not right. You wait for confidence before taking the first step. You blame difficult people, unfortunate circumstances, or yesterday's failures. Yet none of these shape your character as deeply as your own refusal to act. Every excuse promises temporary comfort, but it quietly strengthens the habit of avoiding responsibility. A person who wishes to live well must stop negotiating with hesitation and begin obeying reason. Character is never built by intention alone. Good thoughts without disciplined action remain unfinished. You may understand what is right, speak wisely about virtue, and admire those who live with courage, but none of this changes who you are until your choices follow your understanding. Knowledge becomes valuable only when it governs conduct. The examined life demands more than agreement. It demands obedience to what reason has already revealed. A Stoic teacher would tell you that every day presents enough opportunities to practice virtue. You do not need perfect conditions to become honest. You do not need comfort before showing self-control. You do not need certainty before acting with courage. The only requirement is a willing mind prepared to choose what is right despite difficulty. Waiting for life to become easier only delays the work that belongs to you today. Ancient Rome offers a simple example of this truth. A young soldier stood guard through a long winter night while freezing winds swept across the frontier. He was tired, cold, and alone. No officer watched him. No reward awaited him if he remained faithful to his duty. He could have abandoned his post and invented a convincing excuse before morning. Instead, he remembered that discipline is measured when no one is watching. He remained where duty required until the sun returned. His endurance did not depend upon comfort or recognition. It depended upon his decision that honorable action mattered more than personal convenience. That single night strengthened his character far more than any speech about courage could have done. Look carefully at the excuses you repeat to yourself. Some appear reasonable because they have been spoken for many years. You say you will become disciplined after life becomes less demanding. You promise to repair a broken relationship when the other person changes first. You postpone difficult conversations because discomfort feels inconvenient. Each excuse protects you from immediate effort while quietly shaping a weaker character. The longer these habits remain unchallenged, the more natural they become. Soon you no longer notice that you are avoiding the very work that could transform your life. The disciplined mind refuses to ask whether action feels pleasant. It asks only whether action agrees with virtue. If honesty requires admitting a mistake, speak honestly. If justice requires apologizing, apologize without delay. If wisdom requires studying instead of seeking amusement, choose study. If courage requires facing a difficult responsibility, step toward it without complaint. Right action does not become easier because you delay it. It becomes easier because you practice it. Begin each morning with one clear commitment that reason has already approved. Do not choose 10 improvements. Choose one action that strengthens your character today. Complete the difficult task you have avoided. Speak truth where silence has become cowardice. Fulfill a responsibility without searching for praise. Finish what you begin, even when enthusiasm fades. Your character grows each time action follows conviction instead of convenience. Throughout the day, notice the moment an excuse first appears. Do not argue with it. Simply recognize it as an invitation to abandon discipline. Then ask one direct question. What would a person governed by reason do right now? Let that answer guide your next step. The mind becomes stronger every time it obeys reason instead of comfort. Freedom is not gained through easier circumstances. It is earned through repeated acts of self-command. When evening arrives, examine your conduct with complete honesty. Count the moments when you acted despite reluctance. Notice where excuses still influenced your decisions. Do not hide from these observations because they reveal where tomorrow's work begins. Honest examination is not self-punishment. It is the daily correction that keeps your life aligned with virtue. Your old self believed that good intentions deserved credit even when they produced no action. Your new life begins when you understand that character is shaped by what you repeatedly do, not by what you repeatedly promise. Reject every excuse the moment it appears. Let your choices become stronger than your comfort. Let your actions speak before your explanations. A disciplined life is not built in a single great achievement. It is built each day when reason gives an order and you obey without delay. Number 5. End every complaint and embrace each moment with reason. How much of your strength disappears each day through complaint alone? Many people believe complaining is harmless because it changes nothing outside them. They fail to see that every complaint trains the mind to resist reality instead of understanding it. The tongue speaks dissatisfaction, but the greater damage happens within. Each complaint tells your judgment that peace depends upon different circumstances. In that moment, you abandon the only place where freedom can be found. A disciplined mind does not waste its energy arguing with events that have already occurred. It turns immediately toward the only worthy question: what is the right action now? Complaint begins long before words leave your mouth. It begins when the mind quietly declares that life owes it easier conditions. A delayed opportunity becomes an injustice. A difficult person becomes an excuse for anger. An unexpected obstacle becomes proof that the day has been ruined. Yet none of these conclusions are forced upon you. They are judgments accepted without examination. The event stands before you without intention. It is your opinion that gives it the power to disturb your peace. A Stoic teacher would tell you that every complaint is an invitation to forget your true purpose. You were not born merely to seek comfort. You were born to develop wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control through whatever circumstances arise. Difficult moments are not interruptions to this work. They are the work itself. If every challenge disappeared, many virtues would never be practiced. Patience requires delay, courage requires fear, self-control requires temptation, justice requires difficult people. The disciplined person understands that each moment contains an opportunity to strengthen character rather than weaken it through resentment. Ancient Greece offers a simple lesson in this truth. A farmer faced a season of relentless drought. Many around him gathered each day to complain that the earth had become unfair and that fortune had abandoned them. They spent their strength speaking against conditions they could not change. One older citizen refused to join them. He accepted that the sky would not answer his frustration. Instead, he carefully rationed his remaining water, repaired his tools, helped his neighbors protect their fields, and prepared for the next season with steady effort. His reason remained active while others surrendered themselves to bitterness. The drought tested every person equally, but only those who complained allowed it to consume their character. Consider how often your own speech reveals the habits of your mind. You complain about traffic while losing the chance to practice patience. You complain about criticism while ignoring the opportunity to examine yourself honestly. You complain about demanding work while forgetting that diligence is strengthened only through effort. The problem is not that life contains difficulty. The problem is that complaint blinds you to the virtue each difficulty invites you to practice. Begin each morning by expecting that the day will contain inconvenience, misunderstanding, delay, and disappointment. Do not greet these possibilities with fear. Welcome them as opportunities to exercise reason. When events unfold differently than you hoped, refuse to ask why this happened to you. Ask instead which virtue the moment requires. Sometimes it asks for patience, sometimes honesty, sometimes courage, sometimes restraint. Every circumstance becomes useful when viewed through the purpose of improving character. Practice another discipline throughout the day. The moment you notice yourself preparing to complain, stop before the words are spoken. Remain silent for a brief moment and examine the judgment beneath your frustration. Ask whether the event has truly harmed your character or whether it has only challenged your comfort. Most complaints disappear when measured by this standard. you begin to see that what disturbed you was not the event itself, but your expectation that life should have unfolded differently. There will also be moments when action is necessary. Stoicism never teaches passive acceptance of wrongdoing or neglect. If something can be improved through wisdom and justice, then act. Correct the mistake. Speak truthfully. Fulfill your responsibility. But remove complaint from your effort. Action guided by reason strengthens the soul. Action mixed with resentment weakens it. The same task performed with a calm mind becomes an exercise in virtue instead of a burden carried with bitterness. Each evening, examine the moments when complaint tempted you. Recall what judgment gave birth to it. Ask whether reason would have reached the same conclusion. Then consider how you might respond with greater steadiness tomorrow. This practice gradually teaches the mind to meet each new day with greater composure and less resistance. Your old self searched for peace by demanding better circumstances. Your new life begins when you discover that peace grows from better judgment. End every complaint because it offers no guidance and builds no character. Embrace each moment with reason because every moment contains another opportunity to become wiser, more disciplined, and more faithful to the life that virtue asks you to live. Number 6. Guard your thoughts because character follows every daily judgment. Your character is not formed by rare moments of greatness. It is shaped by the thoughts you allow to remain each ordinary day. Every judgment you accept quietly becomes part of the person you are becoming. A single fearful thought may seem unimportant. A small act of envy may appear harmless. A moment of bitterness may pass unnoticed. Yet the mind remembers what it repeatedly welcomes. What begins as one careless judgment soon becomes a habit, and habit gradually becomes character. If you wish to rebuild your life, you must first become the guardian of your own thoughts. Many people believe they are defeated by difficult circumstances, but they are more often defeated by the stories they tell themselves about those circumstances. They decide they are powerless before making an honest effort. They assume another person's success diminishes their own worth. They believe one failure defines their future. None of these conclusions are facts. They are judgments accepted without careful examination. The rational mind refuses to grant authority to every thought that appears. It asks whether the thought deserves trust before allowing it to guide action. A Stoic teacher would tell you that the mind should resemble a careful guardian standing at the entrance of a city. Every visitor is examined before being allowed inside. Thoughts deserve the same discipline. Some thoughts encourage justice, courage, self-control, and wisdom. Welcome those without hesitation. Other thoughts invite resentment, arrogance, fear, or despair. Refuse them before they establish themselves within your character. A person who neglects this duty slowly becomes a servant to opinions that reason never approved. Ancient Rome provides a lesson that reveals this discipline. An emperor spent each evening reviewing the events of his day before seeking rest. He did not ask whether he had gained more power or received greater praise. Instead, he examined the judgments that had guided his decisions. If pride had entered his thinking, he corrected it. If impatience had influenced his words, he resolved to answer differently the next day. If anger had clouded his reason, he admitted it without excuse. Through this daily examination, he guarded his inner life more carefully than the borders of his empire. He understood that losing command of his thoughts would eventually lead to losing command of himself. Look honestly at the conversations taking place within your own mind. No one else hears them, yet they shape every choice you make. You quietly tell yourself that you will never improve. You repeat old disappointments until they become part of your identity. You compare your path with another person's progress and allow dissatisfaction to grow. These hidden judgments influence your speech, your relationships, your work, and your peace, long before they become visible to others. What remains unchecked within eventually appears without. Begin your mornings by deciding which thoughts deserve your attention. Before the demands of the day arrive, remind yourself that your purpose is not merely to complete tasks, but to preserve an honorable character. Resolve that no passing opinion will be accepted until reason has examined it. If praise comes, do not let it produce pride. If criticism comes, do not let it produce resentment. If uncertainty comes, do not let it produce panic. Let every thought wait until wisdom has judged it. Throughout the day, practice returning your attention whenever your mind begins wandering toward useless judgments. If you notice yourself imagining future misfortune, return to the duty before you. If you find yourself replaying an old injury, return to the present moment where action is still possible. If envy begins to grow, remind yourself that another person's fortune cannot diminish your capacity for virtue. This repeated return is not a single achievement. It is the daily training that gradually strengthens the ruling part of the mind. There will be days when harmful thoughts arrive with great force. Do not become discouraged by their presence. The discipline lies not in preventing every thought from appearing, but in refusing to grant false judgments your agreement. Reason grows stronger each time it quietly declines what is unworthy and chooses what is true instead. This steady practice transforms the mind without noise or spectacle. When evening comes, sit in honest reflection. Review the thoughts that shaped your actions, which judgments led you toward wisdom and self-command. Which thoughts quietly weakened your conduct? Correct them while they are still small. It is far easier to remove one false judgment today than to struggle against a deeply rooted habit tomorrow. Your old self allowed passing thoughts to become permanent beliefs. Your new life begins when every judgment must answer to reason before it earns a place within you. Guard your thoughts with unwavering attention, because they are the beginning of every action and the foundation of every habit. A disciplined mind produces a disciplined character, and a disciplined character remains steady regardless of what the world chooses to place before it. Number 7. Practice voluntary discomfort to weaken fear and strengthen courage. Most people do not fear hardship itself. They fear the thought of hardship long before it arrives. They imagine discomfort as something unbearable, and that imagination quietly governs their choices. They avoid difficult conversations because rejection feels painful. They refuse honest effort because failure seems humiliating. They cling to comfort because they have convinced themselves they cannot live without it. In doing so, they become prisoners of fears that have never been tested. A mind that has never practiced voluntary discomfort will always exaggerate the power of misfortune. Comfort is not an enemy, but dependence upon comfort weakens the soul. When every desire must be satisfied immediately, patience begins to disappear. When every inconvenience is treated as an injustice, resilience slowly fades. The person who cannot endure small hardships willingly will struggle greatly when unavoidable hardships arrive. Life will eventually place difficulty before every person. The question is whether you will meet it as someone already trained in endurance or as someone who has spent years avoiding every challenge. A Stoic teacher would tell you not to wait for fortune to educate you through suffering. Train yourself while circumstances are still favorable. Choose small acts of discipline before greater trials demand them. Voluntary discomfort is not punishment, it is preparation. It teaches your mind that your peace does not depend upon constant pleasure or perfect conditions. Every deliberate act of self-restraint reminds you that your character is stronger than your appetites. Ancient Greece offers a clear example of this discipline. A young soldier preparing to defend his city did not spend his days seeking luxury before battle. He trained with heavy armor beneath the hot sun. He marched long distances while carrying his equipment. He accepted hunger during difficult exercises and remained steady through exhaustion. His purpose was not to suffer for its own sake. His purpose was to ensure that fear would not govern him when real danger appeared. Because he willingly accepted smaller hardships in training, he entered battle with greater composure than those who had only pursued comfort. His courage was built long before the conflict began. Look carefully at your own fears. Many of them survive because they have never been challenged. You fear being without approval because you have always sought it. You fear temporary discomfort because you rarely choose it. You fear uncertainty because you constantly demand guarantees. The mind grows anxious when it believes comfort is necessary for peace. Yet peace belongs to the person who has learned to remain faithful to reason whether conditions are pleasant or difficult. Begin each morning by selecting one small discipline that weakens your attachment to ease. Perform an unpleasant task without delay. Walk instead of seeking convenience when reasonable. Eat with moderation instead of indulgence. Accept waiting without reaching for distraction. Complete your responsibilities before pursuing entertainment. These actions may appear ordinary, yet they quietly strengthen self-command. Each one teaches your mind that discomfort need not become suffering when accepted willingly and guided by reason. Throughout the day, notice the moment you begin avoiding something simply because it feels difficult. Pause before turning away. Ask yourself whether the task threatens your character or merely your comfort. If it only challenges comfort, step toward it with calm determination. Speak the truthful words you have delayed. Begin the work you have postponed. Remain patient when inconvenience appears. Every time you choose reason over avoidance, fear loses a portion of its influence. There is another practice that deserves equal attention. Occasionally imagine losing what you currently enjoy. Consider how you would respond if your plans changed, your possessions became fewer, or your circumstances grew harder. Do not do this to create anxiety. Do it to remind yourself that your greatest possession has never been external. Your capacity for wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control remains available regardless of changing fortune. This reflection prepares the mind to meet uncertainty without panic. As evening arrives, examine where comfort influenced your decisions. Did you avoid a responsibility because it demanded effort? Did fear persuade you to remain silent when honesty was required? Did convenience become more important than discipline? Do not hide these moments from yourself. They reveal where further training is needed. Every honest observation becomes an opportunity to strengthen the soul tomorrow. Your old self believed that safety was found in avoiding hardship. Your new life begins when you understand that true security comes from a character trained to endure whatever life presents. Practice voluntary discomfort with wisdom and moderation, not because suffering is good, but because dependence is dangerous. A person who has learned to stand firm through chosen difficulties will not easily be shaken by unchosen ones. When reason governs your response instead of fear, courage ceases to be an occasional act and becomes the steady habit of your daily life. Number 8. Serve others through justice while expecting nothing in return. Many people believe they are kind, yet their kindness quietly demands payment. They help because they expect gratitude. They give because they hope for loyalty. They show patience because they want praise. When those rewards do not appear, disappointment quickly becomes resentment. This reveals that the action was never fully guided by virtue. It was guided by expectation. A disciplined life begins when justice becomes your purpose instead of recognition. The right action remains right even when no one notices it. Your character is measured not by how others respond to your conduct, but by whether your conduct remains faithful to reason. Another person's gratitude is never yours to command. Their opinion, memory, or fairness belongs to them. If you make your peace depend upon these things, you surrender your freedom to judgments outside your control. The person governed by reason serves because justice requires it, not because fortune promises a reward. Virtue is complete in itself. It does not need applause to prove its worth. A Stoic teacher would tell you that every human being shares the capacity for reason and therefore deserves to be treated with fairness. Some people will return kindness with respect, others will answer generosity with indifference. A few may even respond with hostility. Let none of this alter your commitment to justice. Their conduct belongs to their character. Yours belongs to yours. If another person chooses selfishness, do not allow that choice to become an excuse for abandoning your own principles. Ancient Rome offers a lasting example of this discipline. A magistrate was responsible for settling disputes between ordinary citizens and wealthy landowners. Powerful men attempted to influence his judgment with promises of future favor and hidden rewards. Others warned that honest decisions would cost him friendships and advancement. Yet each day he listened carefully, judged according to fairness, and refused to sell justice for personal advantage. Some praised him while others criticized him. He accepted both responses with equal calm because his duty had never been to collect approval. His duty was to act rightly. His peace came from fulfilling that responsibility rather than controlling the opinions of those before him. Consider your own relationships with complete honesty. How often has disappointment arisen because someone failed to respond as you expected? You offered help and waited for appreciation. You forgave but secretly hoped the other person would immediately change. You acted generously while quietly keeping a record of what was owed in return. These hidden expectations become the source of unnecessary suffering. The action itself was within your control. The response never was. The moment you confuse the two, frustration begins to replace serenity. Begin each morning by reminding yourself that your purpose is to practice justice wherever the day leads. Speak truthfully because honesty strengthens your character. Fulfill your responsibilities because they belong to you. Offer help when wisdom and fairness require it. Then release every expectation concerning how others should respond. Let your satisfaction come from acting well rather than from receiving acknowledgement. This simple discipline protects your peace because it places your attention where it always belongs, upon your own conduct. Throughout the day, observe the moment when expectation quietly enters your actions. You may notice yourself waiting for praise after completing good work. You may expect immediate gratitude after offering assistance. You may hope another person will recognize your sacrifice. When these thoughts appear, pause and return to reason. Ask yourself whether you acted because virtue demanded it or because you desired a reward. If the answer troubles you, correct your intention before continuing. A pure action asks nothing beyond the opportunity to do what is right. There will also be times when justice requires difficult decisions instead of pleasant ones. Fairness may require correcting someone who has acted dishonorably. Compassion may require speaking uncomfortable truths instead of offering comforting falsehoods. Wisdom may require refusing requests that encourage harmful behavior. Serving others does not mean satisfying every desire they express. It means seeking their genuine good through actions governed by reason and integrity. When evening arrives, examine your conduct without seeking excuses. Ask whether justice guided your words and decisions. Notice where hidden expectations disturbed your peace. Learn from those moments instead of defending them. Every honest reflection removes another layer of self-interest and strengthens your commitment to virtue. Your old self measured goodness by the response it received from others. Your new life begins when goodness becomes its own reward. Serve others because justice is worthy of your effort whether anyone thanks you or not. Let fairness shape your decisions even when recognition never comes. A character built upon virtue cannot be impoverished by ingratitude because its greatest reward has always been the quiet knowledge that it remained faithful to reason in every action. Number 9. Remember death daily and choose virtue without hesitation always. You live as though there will always be another morning to correct today's failures. You postpone difficult conversations. You delay acts of kindness. You promise yourself that discipline will begin next week, next month, or after circumstances improve. Yet none of these promises have been given to you. The future has never belonged to your control. Only this present moment stands before you, asking what kind of person you will choose to become. The remembrance of death is not meant to fill your mind with fear. It is meant to remove every excuse for wasting the life that remains. Most people avoid thinking about death because they believe it steals joy. The opposite is true. Forgetting death encourages carelessness. It convinces you that time is endless and that your habits can always be corrected later. When life appears unlimited, small acts of selfishness seem unimportant. Empty distractions become acceptable. Necessary duties are postponed without concern. But when you remember that every day could be your last opportunity to practice virtue, each decision gains its proper weight. You begin treating time as your most valuable possession because you know it cannot be recovered once spent. A Stoic teacher would tell you that death does not ask whether your plans are complete. It does not wait until your ambitions have been fulfilled. It arrives according to nature, not according to preference. Therefore, prepare yourself not by fearing its arrival, but by living each day so that nothing essential remains neglected. Let your character be ready at every hour. Let your conscience remain clear through honest action. Then, whether life continues for many years or ends before nightfall, you will not have lived carelessly. Ancient Rome offers a powerful example of this discipline. A seasoned soldier prepared to enter a difficult battle, knowing he might never return home. Before joining his companions, he settled his disagreements with those around him, fulfilled his duties faithfully, and accepted the uncertainty before him without bitterness. He did not spend his final hours demanding guarantees of survival because no such guarantee existed. Instead, he focused entirely upon what remained within his power. He resolved to act with courage, loyalty, and honor regardless of the outcome. Whether he lived or died rested with fortune. Whether he met that moment with virtue rested entirely with him. Look honestly at the way you spend your days. How many hours disappear through needless distraction while important responsibilities remain unfinished? How often do you remain silent when truth should be spoken because you assume another opportunity will appear? How many resentments continue simply because you believe there will always be more time to forgive? The remembrance of death exposes these habits with complete clarity. It asks whether your present conduct would satisfy you if this day became your last. That question is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to awaken you. Begin each morning with a quiet reflection before the demands of the day begin. Remind yourself that this day is not owed to you. Decide that if it were your final day, you would not waste it through dishonesty, resentment, laziness, or fear. Choose one act of wisdom, one act of justice, one act of courage, and one act of self-control that you will complete before the day ends. Let mortality sharpen your attention instead of weakening your spirit. Throughout the day, whenever hesitation appears, remember the limited nature of your time. If an apology should be offered, speak it. If meaningful work awaits you, begin it. If someone deserves fairness, practice it without delay. Do not ask whether tomorrow will provide another opportunity. Ask whether reason approves your action now. A person who lives in this manner no longer postpones virtue because each present moment becomes sufficient for honorable living. As evening arrives, examine your day as though it were a complete life in miniature. Ask whether your choices reflected the character you wish to leave behind. Do not measure the day by wealth gained or praise received. Measure it by whether you acted according to reason when opportunities appeared. If faults are revealed, correct them tomorrow if tomorrow comes. If tomorrow does not come, let today's conduct be one you could accept without regret. Your old self lived as though time were unlimited and virtue could always wait. Your new life begins when each sunrise reminds you that another chance has been entrusted to your care but never guaranteed again. Remember death daily, not because life is bleak, but because life is precious. Let the certainty of your mortality remove hesitation from every good action. Choose virtue while the present moment is still yours, for no person has ever possessed anything more certain than the duty before them now. Number 10. Live each day as reason commands and freedom follows. Freedom is not found where most people spend their lives searching for it. They believe they will become free after gaining more wealth, greater influence, or constant comfort. They imagine freedom as the ability to do whatever they desire whenever they choose. Yet they remain restless because they are still governed by fear, anger, pride, and endless craving. A person who cannot command the mind cannot truly call themselves free. The greatest prison is not built from stone. It is built from undisciplined judgments that quietly rule every decision. Reason was given to you to become the rightful guide of your life. Every day you allow impulse to take its place, you surrender your freedom. Every time anger speaks before wisdom, fear decides before courage, or desire commands before virtue, you become less the ruler of yourself. The person who follows every passing emotion mistakes movement for progress. The person who follows reason walks steadily because every step is chosen rather than merely reacted to. A Stoic teacher would tell you that freedom begins with one simple decision, repeated every day. Refuse to let anything outside your character determine the quality of your life. Fortune may change your circumstances. Other people may change their opinions. The body itself will eventually weaken with age. None of these changes possess the authority to corrupt your judgment unless you willingly surrender it. True freedom belongs only to the person whose actions remain faithful to wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control regardless of changing conditions. Ancient Rome offers a lasting example of this principle. A provincial governor faced intense pressure from influential men who demanded unfair treatment for their own advantage. They promised greater status if he obeyed and threatened consequences if he refused. The easier path would have protected his position. Instead, he examined the matter through reason alone. He judged fairly, accepted whatever followed, and remained loyal to justice rather than personal gain. Though others believed they controlled his future, they never controlled his character. That is why he remained inwardly free while many powerful men remained enslaved by ambition and fear. Look honestly at the forces directing your own days. Does praise change your principles? Does criticism silence your honesty? Does comfort persuade you to neglect your responsibilities? Does fear convince you to avoid what you know is right? Each time your choices are determined by these influences, your freedom quietly diminishes. The chains are invisible, yet they become stronger with every unexamined decision. You do not lose freedom all at once. You surrender it one careless judgment at a time. Begin every morning by establishing reason as the ruler of the coming day. Before work begins, and before distractions demand your attention, remind yourself that your purpose is not simply to complete tasks, but to govern yourself well. Expect difficulties without resentment. Expect misunderstandings without bitterness. Expect success without pride and setbacks without despair. Decide in advance that no event will persuade you to abandon virtue. When reason prepares the mind before the day begins, fewer surprises gain the power to disturb it. Throughout the day, create a habit of returning to reason whenever emotion begins to lead. Before speaking, ask whether your words are just. Before acting, ask whether your decision strengthens your character. Before judging another person, ask whether your conclusion rests upon evidence or impulse. These brief moments of reflection gradually transform ordinary actions into disciplined practice. Freedom grows every time reason becomes stronger than reaction. There will be moments when you fail. You may speak impatiently, judge unfairly, or pursue what reason never approved. Do not allow these failures to become excuses for abandoning the path. The disciplined person does not expect perfection. The disciplined person expects correction. Return immediately to what is right. Every sincere correction strengthens the habit of self-governance and weakens the habit of self-deception. As evening arrives, review the entire day with calm honesty. Ask where reason guided your conduct and where impulse briefly gained control. Notice the moments when you remained faithful to virtue despite difficulty. Notice the moments that still require improvement. Accept both observations without pride or discouragement. Honest examination is itself an act of freedom because it refuses to hide from the truth. Your old self believed freedom meant controlling the world around you. Your new life begins when you understand that freedom has always depended upon governing the world within you. Live each day as reason commands, not because life will become easier, but because your character will become stronger. When wisdom directs your judgments, justice shapes your actions, courage steadies your heart, and self-control restrains your desires, nothing essential can be taken from you. This is the freedom that fortune cannot grant, hardship cannot destroy, and time cannot diminish. It belongs to every person who chooses reason over impulse one day at a time.